Hi, I'm Vicky, Product Marketing Manager here at Exabeam.
Hi, and I'm Ronnie from Corelight. I'm the Technical Marketing Engineer.
In this video, we're going to show you how to find network-based threats using UEBA and Zeek logs. We'll use some actual examples from the MITRE ATT&CK framework to make it specific. Make sure you watch the end, as we'll also cover some mistakes people make when they start out. Before we jump in, we'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to the Exabeam channel where we post new explainers and demos every week. Make sure to hit the bell so you get notified when we publish. We're going to start out with a few definitions before we get to the demo. First, UEBA stands for User and Entity Behavior Analytics. It's an analytics layer that tracks normal and abnormal behavior for users and entities like computers or other devices. It helps analysts spot abnormal behaviors like logins from an unusual location or machines uploading large amounts of information for the first time. Both are potential signs of a security issue. Basically, UEBA analytics helps the analyst by spotting things that they should look into.
Thanks, Vicky. And I'll talk a little bit about Zeek and what it does. So Zeek is a platform that monitors and analyzes network traffic, and it produces compact and structured and curated evidence. It can be used to look for and discover security issues across enterprises by examining your network. What Zeek does is it turns raw network traffic into comprehensive logs, which are organized by protocol with key fields that are extracted for security use cases. Zeek logs are also linked by special common fields, such as the UID field or unique identifier field, which are unique IDs for every network session. These can be used to pivot quickly across data about web traffic, email, file downloads, and so on. Another example is the FUID, or the File Unique Identifier field, which is a unique hash of every file that traverses the network. The FUID can be critical in understanding how many people have been affected by a piece of malware in an environment. So many of you may know Zeek as Bro, but with the negative association of the Bro culture, after 20 years of Bro, the project leadership team decided to change the name in 2017 when, the word Bro had a negative connotation, and we wanted to get away from that naturally. Having a yearly convention called BroCon just didn't sound right anymore. Zeek was actually the process name of the original Bro server at the Lawrence Berkeley National Labs. It was inspired by the Far Side comic character named Zeek, if you're familiar with that. And the leadership team thought Zeek was a fun and appropriate name. So you may ask, why do we need Zeek, right? Now, many of you may be familiar with NetFlow and packet capture, also widely known as PCAPs, when it comes to network data sources. NetFlow is actually a fast and easy way to search through network data. However, it lacks the data and the context that security analysts need when it comes to doing security searching. So in terms of utility for that purpose, NetFlow is a pretty thin soup. And on the other hand, we have PCAP, which of course provides the most data and the context, because you're literally storing all of the information that crosses over the wire, right? However, it can be really hard to search, and if you work with PCAPs before to any level, you will know that it's also very costly to retain, right? Because it takes up so much storage space. And basically, when it comes time to do analysis of a security incident, 99% of PCAP's file will actually be irrelevant to the investigation. So what Zeek provides is that happy medium, right? It takes one 1/100th of the data of a PCAP file, while it provides about 100 times the richness of NetFlow. And here's the comparison of what a raw DNS log looks like versus what you get from Zeek. This is just one example. There are roughly 50 logs out of the box with Zeek. And Corelight also provides additional collection of packages or scripts based on the open source Zeek framework. And of course, customers can add their own custom packages or pull packages from the Zeek community.
Now, let's talk about how UEBA and Zeek logs can work together. UEBA brings together cross-organizational security data to performance analyses, and this data is typically collected and stored by a SIEM. A SIEM collects data from various log sources such as Zeek logs from Corelight. Like we explained earlier, UEBA allows security teams to identify anomalous activity. Applying UEBA to network traffic data in a useful format like Zeek logs makes for a powerful way to identify threats in an environment. UEBA enables analysts to get the full picture of an attack in the context of activity from other tools, all linked back to a user, not just the network. So with that background, let's put UEBA and Zeek together to find some real threats. You know, we're big fans of the MITRE ATT&CK framework here at Exabeam when it comes to threat hunting, so we're going to use that as our guide. We'll look at one specific use case, discovering data exfiltration. First, let's define data exfiltration. Data exfiltration is the unauthorized transfer of private data or intellectual property from a corporate computer to an external location. Data exfiltration can occur via email, file sharing, or even a simple thumb drive. As employees and other users, like vendors or partners, increasingly have access to sensitive information, it's important to be able to identify these types of attacks. Traditionally, data loss prevention tools, or DLPs, are used to detect data exfiltration. However, these are notorious for generating high volumes of alerts and false positives. All right, cool. So let's get into the demo. Here in our UEBA platform, analysts are encouraged to look at users to find threats, not a bunch of alerts. Like we mentioned earlier, UEBA has the power to identify both normal and abnormal behavior of a user. Then, based on their activity, the user is given a risk score. Let's take a look at Gary. It looks like his risk score is over 300, and therefore he's been identified as notable. So let's go ahead and start our investigation. Okay, so now we're at Gary's timeline. We can see a little bit more detail about what's going on throughout his day. And if you remember, this is both normal and abnormal activity. Looks like the first thing is there's a physical access event that we might want to look at. And this information came from what looks like a badge log source. So that means we can understand that, oh, okay, this is the first time that Gary has accessed this store using their badge. Seems a little suspicious. And even more concerning, it looks like Gary gave HR notice. And if you remember, employees who have access to sensitive information, intellectual property like code they developed, they might want to take that with them on the way out. Scrolling down through the timeline, we can start to put together the pieces and say, okay, maybe some data exfil is going on here. Scrolling down a little bit further, we see another event which shows process execution. Looks like the process is called git clone stratosphere.git. This is the first time that Gary's running this process. So we're starting to get a little suspicious. What's Gary doing in GitHub? So what does this have to do with Corelight and Zeek logs? Scrolling down even a little bit further in the timeline, I think we can see that there's a network connection event. So we can see that this comes from Corelight and a Zeek log. So we have important fields that an analyst might want to know, like the source IP, source port, destination IP, destination port. All that seems pretty standard, but all right. We can also see that it looks like there was an RDP protocol running, and let's figure out what that means. Here in plain English, you'll see that this asset has RDP to another workstation, and really this helps guide the analyst to understand that we might have some network service scanning going on. And this is really helpful because the information is parsed into plain English along with the MITRE ATT&CK framework tagged to the event. These events are sourced from Corelight logs. So let's scroll a bit further on Gary's timeline. We have some more activity, and now, it looks like we have a connection event. So here we can see there's an RDP connection, or remote desktop protocol, from Gary's source machine to another destination over here. This seems like a little risky, so we've added some risk here. And we can also see what looks like some network scans going on. And let's click into that to see what's going on. So here, an analyst can see that vertical network port scanning might be going on, and it's tagged to the technique in the MITRE ATT&CK framework with the description there laid out in plain English. And we were only able to get this event into the timeline from the visibility that we got from Corelight logs. Let's go ahead and look at another event that we got from Corelight. So here, it looks like we have another successful network connection. And this one is showing outbound public SMB usage for this asset. So the timeline showing outbound traffic using the SMB protocol, which shouldn't happen, and this might indicate that data is being exfiltrated to an external device. So putting all this together, it looks like a pretty compelling case for the analyst to go ahead and say, Gary's doing some stuff he really shouldn't be. And the user timelines go a long way in helping analysts automate the more tedious parts of their investigation and more quickly be able to focus on how do I contain this issue? How do I remediate? And now I'll turn it back to Ronnie for mistakes to avoid.
Thanks, Vicky, for that great demo. Hopefully that was very helpful in showing some of the ways you can use our data together between Exabeam's UEBA data and Corelight Zeek logs from the network perspective. So I want to touch upon some of the best practices and mistakes to avoid when doing this kind of an investigation. Firstly, don't forget to dig deeper into all the logs. It doesn't matter what kind of security incident it is. It's always helpful if you use that UID field or the unique identifier field to check for additional context, because it ties all the logs from DNS to HTTP to emails and file downloads, because an incident may not stop where you think it stops. It never hurts to look further. And on the other hand, which is related to my first point, is that you should never give up on the hunt early. Feed back any of the indicators of compromise that you come across in your initial search back into the process again to iterate and potentially find more attacks. We've also put some links and related videos in the notes below. So if you want to dig a little bit more deeper into what UEBA is or Zeek, including the MITRE ATT&CK framework, right? Feel free to ask any questions that you have in the comments below and we'll help answer.
What you saw, please like the video and subscribe to our channel below. Click on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the new cybersecurity training videos.